All right, so we're gonna show you how we're making new mulberry babies. That's coming up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today. It's actually the first weekend in October. You know, it's a beautiful day. We got some overcast skies, we got some rain coming in again, we got some rain this week, and you know what? It is definitely fall. It has finally fallen here in the Arizona desert. So one of the things that we actually didn't share with you guys that we started a couple months ago is we started air layering some trees, and that's actually what we're gonna be talking about today. So if you guys don't know it already, I'm gonna link our 100th episode here. We talk a little bit about where the future, our future is and where the future of our farm is, and it'll be expanding from this 1 acre lot that we're on now to a 6 acre eventual farm. And so a few things that we've actually kind of known going forward is that we want to take a few of the trees that we have here with us, not necessarily digging a bunch of these up, we want to leave those for the new owners, but we want to try to replicate some of the trees. And so one of the ways that we thought we might try was air layering. So unfortunately what we didn't do is we didn't show you the very beginning process. There's a lot of videos out there on how to do air layering. We are not experts by any means. All we're really trying to do is get copies of some of our trees. Well, one of those trees that we really love is the contorted mulberry, which you're going to see behind me here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link our contorted mulberry video here. You guys can see what this looked like. Actually, it was before the growing season even began, and you can now see what it's turned into. So actually, it's now, goodness, it's probably about 7 to 8 feet tall. It's probably about 8 feet wide. A lot of just fantastic branching. This is a mulberry tree that actually stayed completely green all summer, which is pretty impressive because usually that doesn't happen. But it's done really, really well, and we really love this tree. We actually got some fruit off of it, believe it or not, at a year old. But we want to take this with us. We're not going to dig it up. We're going to leave this here for the new owners, but we're replicating it with air layering. So what you're going to see today is actually going to see the final process, which is actually us taking basically a cutting essentially off the tree and putting those into pots for the wintertime. Now's the perfect time for that, which is what we're doing today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Lori squeeze in. So from a tool standpoint, all I have for this first part that you guys are watching, getting this off of here, is going to be my pruner. So I talked a lot about pruning. I'll link our pruning videos here. This is my standard just pruning shears. They're Corona. They work fantastic. I've already wiped them down with alcohol to make sure that I'm not going to be putting any bacteria or fungus in particular into this cutting before we put it into a pot. So this is the first time Lori and I have ever done this step, so you guys are going to be here for us. So I'm going to have Lori squeeze in even further. So you can see this is our air layer here. So, and again, you'll kind of, if you guys kind of look up air layering, you can kind of see how this is done. But really what we have here is going to be kind of the final process. So how we know it's working, this has been on here for 2 months. It's been on here through the hottest part of our summer. And I've got new growth here and lots of new growth at the tip. So we know that we've got some roots down underneath here that's doing well. So we're going to go ahead and take this. So from what we understand, actually I've got a little bit of new growth here too. So from what we understand, you want to go behind the cuts that we made in the branching. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. So this will be our new tree. We've got one more cutting on here. We're going to try 2 of these, but this is going to be our new tree. So we're going to go ahead and take this one and the second one. So if Lori wants to slide around, let's grab the second one. It's going to be right here in the middle. So now when I chose the branches that we were going to do this air layering on, so I was very strategic in choosing which branch I was going to use because I already knew that I was going to lose it once we came through and we did our pruning. So I'm going to go ahead and take this cutting as well. All right, so that's our second air layer cutting. So we have 2 that we're going to go ahead and bring into the back, and we're going to show you how we finish this. So that's coming up next. Okay, so there's actually one more tree before we get to the last step here that we wanted to show you. So our Shangri-La mulberry, I'm going to go ahead and link our Shangri-La mulberry video here for you. So we love our Shangri-La mulberries. So we did want to try some air layering on this tree as well. And we have 5 of them in here. Lori and I took a sneak peek at the 5 that we did. It looks like one probably didn't take. We're going to go ahead and cut it anyway. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through here. I believe we have 5. So we're going to go ahead and take the cuttings off of this tree. Then we're going to show you what we do to get them into pots and get them ready for the winter. Okay, so we got all of our cuttings. So actually we only had 4 on that mulberry. One of them we're not too sure about. That's this guy here. He's a little brown and kind of light in weight. He's not heavy like the rest of them are. So we're not sure whether that one made it or not, but we've got pots prepped. And so what we've done is we've just taken potting soil. If Lori wants to pan that way, we've already talked about potting soil before. We use the same one. You'll recognize that. You ever been to Home Depot or Lowe's? They carry it there. That's going to be your least expensive organic route. That's the one that we use for all of our potted plants. So I've got 5 pots. We're just repurposing pots that we used. Actually, we bought fruit trees in, believe it or not. So we've got pots that we're just reusing. They're already halfway full of soil that we've already went ahead and watered in. We've mentioned this before, but just make sure when you're using potting soil, you don't know how moist and what the moisture content is in that soil. You want to make sure that when you're watering these, it's completely drenching the soil itself, not just going around the outside of that ball. So we went ahead and we watered these down, so they're all about halfway full. Next thing we're going to do is take a look at the cuttings. So I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this. First time that we're seeing these. So you're going to get this in reverse order. So the foil. The reason why the foil is there is we're trying to basically simulate these being underground just like a root ball would be. Because roots hopefully have taken root inside of this. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. And you use a heavy-duty foil when you're doing this. So it stays nice and dark. And if Lori wants to squeeze in here, let's go ahead and take a look. And I see some good things here. So you can see the outside is foil. And if you want to go ahead, you can probably see through there. You can see we already have roots growing. So what we thought didn't make it and was dead actually has a root mass. So what you see here is you see saran wrap. So we just have plastic wrap that we took around here. This is that marking tape that you buy. It's super cheap from Home Depot. We use that kind of a lot of different places here on the farm, but we've got this here. So what you do is you basically just take coconut core, which is what we used for the medium on the inside, completely drench that coconut core, and you take the tree itself on the bark. You basically take a cutting or cut through the outside layer of the bark to get down to the cambium layer. So you do the outside cut here, about 1 inch to 2 inches in width. So you cut down to the cambium layer, and then you take that Sharpie or X-Acto type knife, so one of those box cutter knives is what we used, and you scrape away the cambium layer. And what that does is it actually causes at that junction where you have the bark that's been cut and the cambium layer is missing, you start to get root growth, which is what you see here. So at the top, if you can imagine, at the top of this, there's roots growing out right here, and what you can see is there's roots growing out of the bottom as well. So it's trying to root on both sides of the tree. What we're looking for is we're looking for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this off, being very, very careful, and we're going to put it into our pot. So we get it into the pot. I'll probably trim more of this off because this actually is not going to necessarily survive. We're looking for the roots up at the top of that cut. If you can think about it, if the cut's right here, we want the roots up here that are going to establish the tree. That's pretty exciting because we thought this was dead. So we're going to go ahead and show you how we pot these up. So we're going to kind of just do that in a quick time lapse. So you watch Lori and I do that. Okay, so we have all of the foil off of these, and you know what, I'll tell you what, we've got a couple that have some amazing roots. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is actually one of the Shangri-La mulberries. We're going to actually show you how we go through the rest of the process of getting this in a pot. Like I said, we got this about halfway full of soil that's watered down, so we know it's nice and damp, and we're ready to go ahead and do this transplant. Now, we've seen this done one of two ways. We've seen them actually take like an X-Acto or box cutter and slice down, being careful not to slice the roots, and we've also seen people basically just take the saran wrap off. One thing we do know, we want to try to keep the roots as undisturbed as we can through this whole process. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just unravel it at this point very, very gingerly. So you're going to watch Lori and I do that. I'm going to try to talk you through as much as we can. So she's going to squeeze in a little bit closer so you guys can see this in more detail. So if Lori wants to squeeze in. So if you look at this, So we talked a little bit about coconut coir. So that coconut coir goes around that cut that you make. You make sure it's nice and damp. And what you do is just take it in your hand. It's actually a little tough to do. Lori and I were having a hard time when we were doing it a couple months back. But you basically take that coconut coir and wrap it, and then you wrap it with a saran wrap as tight as you can to keep that moisture in there, to keep it nice and damp for those roots to continue to grow. And we did these in was the beginning of August. It's been 2 months now. Might have been the end of July. So hottest part of the summer in Arizona, guys. I mean, it doesn't get hotter than that. And we had a dry, hot summer. So to see this happening through our Arizona summer is just amazing. So we're going to go ahead and get this potted up. So we're going to go ahead and do a time lapse so you can watch Lori and I do that with this particular one here. Okay, so you guys just watched us gingerly go ahead and get this in there. So I'll tell you what, we got that root ball to stay, and man, that coconut coir was basically getting dry. So perfect timing for us to go ahead and pull these, and a perfect day. We got this overcast and stuff going on. It's kind of nice. But check this out, guys. This is a Shangri-La mulberry, legit Shangri-La mulberry tree that we have now basically duplicated. So we've got another one, and so we're really excited. Now, one of the things we will do, I will come back and I'll prune this down during the winter time. I want to leave that there because that's going to help supply nutrients to the roots. We still have a couple months of growing, at least a month and a half for this to grow here before we get really, really cold come December or so. So what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and stake it. So super, super simple. I'm just using an inexpensive bamboo stake. Now what I am going to do is I am going to keep it away from that root ball. I know about where the root ball is at. So I'm going to get this in there all the way to the bottom, and I'm just going to use some basic gardener's tape. So we have gardener's tape in 2 different sizes. This is a really thin size you can get from Home Depot, so I'm going to use this nice thin stuff. It stretches really, really well, but we're going to go ahead and tie this off. So I like to get it in a couple different spots because we want to make sure that this stays nice and snug. So we get that right up there. I think that's going to be high enough up. And then one more a little further down. I might do a third one up at the top by the time we're done. We'll kind of see it's nice and breezy today, so to give us a good idea of what it's going to look like as far as how it's going to move around in the wind. But we'll go ahead and get 2 on here now. And that's that. So Shangri-La mulberry tree, air layering a Shangri-La mulberry tree. So what Laura and I are going to do, we're going to go ahead. It looks like we got a storm coming in. We've got to get the rest of these into pots. So we know how much you guys have really asked us to do time lapses and show you when we're doing each step. We're going to go ahead and do a time lapse, show you us potting up all the rest of these trees. So that's coming up for you guys now. Okay, so you guys just saw us go ahead and take care of the rest of the air layering transplants. So these are all of our trees. We did come back, what we didn't show you on camera, we did come back with these contorted mulberries that are kind of bending over sideways like this, I don't know, like a fishing rod. But we went ahead and tied them up a little bit so they're more straight. So you see that one there, we got the other one back here. The contorted mulberries, man, we're really excited about getting those. That would be fantastic if we can actually have these take. But for the most part, they look pretty good. The one that we had shown you that's kind of looks like it was dying a little bit back here, it still looks like that. Well, this is our actual mulberry tree that we're under, but you can see it looked pretty weak. There wasn't much in the way of root mass in there, so we're a little concerned that that one's not going to take. About the only thing we have left to do is get a nice layer of wood chip mulch we're going to go ahead and put on top of here just to help keep kind of some of that moisture in, as we do have a tendency to still be really, really dry here in the fall. But ultimately, we wanted to share this with you guys. We've got our little nursery right here. So we've got all of our mulberries here. You guys will recognize those. We've done a video on those. I'll link that here, talking about fig cuttings. We got about a 50%, looks like 50% success rate on the fig cuttings that we showed, and you guys actually saw us plant from scratch. Got a couple other things back there in our nursery too, some mesquite trees that we're transplanting that are growing in the ground that we want to put in the new property, and of course the mulberries that you just saw with air layering. So pretty cool. So I just want to thank you guys for joining us today. You know, it was kind of a longer video, but we wanted to share something that we're trying for the first time, encouraging you guys to do the same whenever you can. And hey, you know what, if you haven't done so already, hey, subscribe to our channel. You know, we got a lot of stuff going up. You know, we talked a little bit in the beginning about the move that we have coming up onto that 6 acres. We got a lot of stuff we're trying out here, things we want to take with us that we don't have to dig up out of the ground. So we got that kind of stuff we got going on. Going into the fall, got all our livestock is back here on the farm. A lot of cool stuff we're going to be showing you. And we actually submitted for our building permit yesterday. So we're looking for breaking ground here on the new property here in another month or two. So love it if you join us there. And hey, if you have any questions or comments, hey, leave them in the comment section down below. You know, one of the things that Laura and I really do enjoy doing is interacting with you guys, and we can do that through that format. And hey, if you guys don't already know this, hey, we are on Instagram and Facebook. Edge of Nowhere Farm, easiest to find us. One of the things with our Instagram, we have a tendency to post pictures of things that aren't necessarily things we cover here on YouTube. So more kind of behind the scenes of the farm, some of the other things that we got going on, we put up there on Instagram. Love to have you follow us there as well. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. So we figured we'd try some potatoes on trees. Tree potatoes? No tree potatoes. Foil babies. And we're comfortable outside. So you know, winters is Let's try that again. I was gonna go ahead and cut this anyway, just in case it didn't take. Yeah, that was smack me in the face. Let's try that again. It is breezy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice. Love the fall.